Coming in at number 5, we have Jiraiya's death from Naruto. And this one hits different because Jiraiya wasn't just a character. He was the heart and soul of the series, wrapped up in one perverted legendary ninja who became the father figure Naruto never had. And what makes his death so devastating isn't just that he dies, but how he dies completely alone in the depths of the Hidden Rain village, after finally uncovering the truth about Pain's identity. And the setup for this death is masterful, because we watch Jiraiya go into this mission, knowing it's dangerous but confident in his abilities. As one of the legendary Sannin, and throughout the infiltration, we see glimpses of his past, his relationship with his former students, and his genuine love for Naruto in the village. And then the battle begins, and we realize that this isn't going to be another case of the mentor surviving impossible odds, because Pain isn't just powerful. He's Jiraiya's own former student, turned into something unrecognizable. And the fight itself is beautifully animated, showing Jiraiya at his absolute best, using every technique in his arsenal sage mode, summoning jutsu, and decades of experience, but it's not enough. And the moment when his arm gets crushed and he realizes he can't win is when the true emotional weight starts to sink in, because this is Jiraiya, the man who taught the 4th Hokage, the man who could have been Hokage himself, and he's about to die in the bottom of a lake with no one to witness his final moments. And what destroys you emotionally is watching him use his last moments not to save himself, encode a message on the back of one of his toad summons, because even in death, his thoughts are about protecting the village and helping Naruto. And the voice acting during this scene is phenomenal, with Jiraiya's internal monologue reflecting on his life, his failures, and his hope that Naruto will succeed where he couldn't. And when he finally sinks beneath the water with that peaceful expression on his face, it's not just the death of a character, it's the death of Naruto's innocence and the last connection to his parents. And the aftermath of this death reverberates throughout the entire series, because Naruto's reaction when he finds out is gut-wrenching, and it's this loss that ultimately drives him to master Sage Mode and grow into the ninja Jiraiya always believed he could become. And this death works so well because it perfectly captures the feeling of losing a mentor, someone who believed in you when no one else did, and taught you not just skills, but how to be a better person. At number 4, we have Ace's death from One Piece, and this one is particularly brutal because it happens right after what should have been his moment of triumph, when Luffy and the entire Whitebeard crew fought through hell itself to rescue him from execution. And Ace had such a compelling character arc throughout the series, dealing with the burden of being the son of the Pirate King and questioning whether he deserved to live, but through his relationship with Luffy, the Whitebeard pirates, he finally found a family that accepted him unconditionally. And that's what makes his death so devastating, because it happens just when he's finally learned to value his own life and accept that he deserves happiness. And the setup is perfect, because the rescue mission at Marineford had us all believing that love and determination would be enough to save him. And for a brief moment, it seems like it worked when Luffy frees him from the execution platform and they're running toward freedom together, and then Akainu starts insulting Whitebeard and Ace's character flaw. The same pride and loyalty that made us love him becomes his downfall, because he can't let those words go unanswered, even though Luffy is begging him to keep running. And when Akainu attacks Luffy and Ace throws himself in the way, it's both the most heroic and most heartbreaking moment in the series, because he's finally protecting the brother who came to save him, but at the cost of his own life. And the actual death scene is devastating, with Ace's final words to Luffy telling him that his one regret is that he won't be able to see Luffy achieve his dream of becoming Pirate King, and thanking everyone for loving him despite his bloodline. And what makes the scene so emotionally effective is Luffy's reaction, because we've never seen him break down like this, completely unable to cope with the loss of his brother and falling into a catatonic state that requires a 2-year time skip for him to even begin to recover. And the animation during this sequence is top tier, with every frame conveying the weight of this loss and the way it changes everything for every character involved. And this death works because it represents the ultimate sacrifice, protecting the person you love most, even when it costs you everything. And it shows that sometimes love isn't enough to save everyone, but that doesn't make the sacrifice any less meaningful. Coming in at number 3, we have L's death from Death Note. And this one hurts in a completely different way, because L knew it was coming, and so did we. But that knowledge somehow makes it worse, not better, because we spent the entire series watching this brilliant detective get closer and closer to exposing Light, only to have victory snatched away at the last possible moment. And what makes L such a compelling character isn't just his genius intellect, but his childlike mannerisms and genuine desire for justice. in a world that seems increasingly corrupt. And his dynamic with Light is fascinating because even though they're enemies, there's a mutual respect and understanding between them that makes their conflict feel personal. And the setup for his death is masterful because the introduction of the second Kira and Rem creates a situation where L's greatest strength, his logical mind, becomes his weakness because he can't account for the emotional motivations of a Shinigami who's willing to sacrifice herself for love. And the actual death scene is quietly devastating because there's no dramatic music or elaborate final words. Just L collapsing in his chair with that same calm expression he always wore. And the cruel irony is that he was right about everything. Light was Kira, Misa was the second Kira, and the notebook was real. But being right doesn't save him. What makes this death so painful is that it represents the death of justice itself, because L was the only person smart enough and dedicated enough to stop Light. And with him gone, the world becomes a much darker place, and the aftermath shows Light winning not through superior intellect, but through emotional manipulation. And the willingness to sacrifice others and watching Light pretend to mourn L while secretly celebrating his victory is almost as painful as the death itself, because we know that L deserved better than to be forgotten by a world that never knew he was trying to save them. And this death works because it shows that sometimes being right isn't enough, and that evil can win not through strength, but through its willingness to use love and loyalty as weapons against those who still believe in doing the right thing. At number 2, we have Maes Hughes' death from Full Metal Alchemist. And this one absolutely destroys viewers because Hughes represents everything good and pure in a story filled with darkness and corruption. And he's the loving husband, the devoted father, the loyal friend who sees the best in everyone and believes in the power of family and friendship to overcome any obstacle. And what makes his character so endearing is how he constantly talks about his wife and daughter, showing pictures to anyone who will look and beaming with pride at every small milestone in his daughter's life. And he's also one of the few characters who figured out the massive conspiracy at the heart of the series, putting together clues that others missed because of his intelligence and dedication to protecting his friends. And that's exactly what gets him killed, because when he tries to call Mustang to warn him about the conspiracy, Envy intercepts the call and kills him in that phone booth. And the death scene itself is brutal, not because of graphic violence, but because of how unfair it feels. Because Hughes dies trying to protect people he cares about, and his last thoughts are of his family and how he won't be able to see his daughter grow up. And what makes this death so devastating is how it affects everyone around him, especially at his funeral, when his daughter keeps asking why her daddy won't wake up and why everyone is throwing dirt on him, and Mustang's breakdown at the graveside where he admits that it's raining, even though the sun is shining, is one of the most emotionally powerful moments in anime, because it shows how the loss of someone good can break even the strongest people. And the lasting impact of Hughes' death drives the entire rest of the series, because the Elric brothers and Mustang are motivated by the need to expose the conspiracy that killed him and make sure his sacrifice wasn't in vain. And this death works so well because Hughes represented hope and normalcy in a world gone mad, and losing him feels like losing the possibility that good people can survive in a corrupt world. And it forces every character to confront the fact that sometimes the people who deserve to live the most are the ones who die first. And the phone call that never came home becomes a symbol of all the conversations we'll never have with the people we lose. And at number 1, we have Kamina's death from Gurren Lagann. And this death is the gold standard for emotional devastation because it happens at the exact moment when everything seems to be going perfectly and Kamina has just achieved his greatest victory, leading Team Daiguren to capture the enemy's mobile fortress and inspiring everyone around him to believe that anything is possible if you just have enough fighting spirit. And what makes Kamina such an incredible character is how he embodies pure optimism and determination, refusing to accept that anything is impossible, and constantly pushing Simon to believe in himself and reach for bigger and bigger dreams. And their relationship is the heart of the entire series, with Kamina serving as the big brother Simon never had, and Simon being the little brother Kamina always wanted to protect and guide toward greatness. And the setup for his death is perfect because it comes right after their biggest victory, when they've just proven that humans can fight back against the Beastmen and win. And Kamina is at the peak of his confidence, talking about how they're going to break through the surface and see the sky and stars that he's only dreamed about. And then the gunman battle begins, and everything seems to be going according to plan, with Kamina and Simon working together in perfect harmony to defeat their enemies. And for a moment, looks like nothing can stop them because they have the power of friendship and determination on their side. And then Kamina gets shot, and we think he's dead, but he gets back up and delivers the final blow to the enemy. Gunman with one of the most epic speeches in anime history about how a real man never dies even when he's killed. And it seems like his pure willpower is enough to overcome even death itself, and then he collapses, and we realize that he was running on nothing but determination and love for Simon, and that his body finally gave out. And the actual death scene is devastating because Kamina's final words to Simon are about believing in himself and continuing to move forward even without his big brother there to guide him. And Simon's reaction is heartbreaking because his entire world has just collapsed, and the person who taught him to believe in the impossible is gone forever. And what makes this death so emotionally effective is how it changes the entire tone of the series. Because up until this point, we believe that fighting spirit and determination could overcome anything. But Kamina's death proves that sometimes real life doesn't care about your dreams or your courage, and the spiral power that seemed so infinite and powerful couldn't save the one person who mattered most. And the aftermath shows Simon falling into a deep depression and losing all confidence in himself, because without Kamina, he doesn't know how to be the person everyone needs him to be. And this death works because it represents the ultimate loss of innocence. The moment when we realize that believing in yourself isn't always enough, and that even the strongest people can be taken away from us. Without warning, and Kamina's death is painful because it forces us to confront our own mortality and the fragility of the people we love, while simultaneously inspiring us to carry on their memory and continue fighting for the dreams they couldn't live to see fulfilled